Hello everybody, today we're going to go through the park ranger records from 1990. I have basically all the park ranger records from that time period. So today we're going to start on January 4th of 1990 and we're going to talk about an animal attack. So there was a man by the name of TW. He was a concession employee and he was over by Old Faithful skiing. So he was kind of minding his own business and he came upon a coyote. And basically, it seemed like, there's kind of a standoff. He decided to take off and run away. And after he ran away, he tripped and fell. And when he tripped and fell, the coyote attacked his skull, his forehead, his arm, and his hands. So the skier was actually able to take his ski and hit the coyote over the head and drive it away. So thankfully there were no very serious injuries from this, but he did end up in a hospital in Bozeman. There have been four separate incidents by four separate animals around this time period in the Old Faithful area. Many of the animals were actually tracked down and killed. No rabies were detected in the animals. However, they think this is a result of visitors feeding the animals and them getting too friendly with the visitors and then deciding to attack if there's no food given or whatnot. So the next incident was discovered on January 18th, 1990. The incident actually occurred about a month prior or 2 months prior, where two poachers with the initials DB and KW, both of Idaho Falls, snuck into Yellowstone and actually shot an elk and killed it. They were near the Madison Junction, and basically that's about 14 miles inside of the park. So after shooting the elk, they actually took the head and the antlers and just left the carcass lay there. So after doing this, they actually had a purpose for it. They took the head and antlers to a local bar contest in Idaho, and they entered it into a biggest elk contest and won first place. So after winning first place, an anonymous tipster called into the game wardens and it was investigated and they were caught. The judge actually told them that they had decreased public's enjoyment of the park by removing an animal for their own personal gratification. And now they were actually sentenced to 30 days in jail and given a $1,250 fine. So on December 19th, 1989, there was actually another poaching conviction. So two men going by the name JR and DJ, one was 35 and one was 56 years old. They basically went and they killed a moose calf in Yellowstone. And now they took the meat from this moose calf and they were selling it to people in town. So basically, long story short, the game wardens and rangers found out about it and they basically went in as undercover officers. The guilty party, the main person involved, was JR, the 35-year-old, and he offered to take them on a little hunt. So they went out on snowmobiles, the poacher and the game warden and the informant, and they all went out and shot a bull or a cow moose. And the poacher was going to shoot a calf too, but the warden stopped him. So they quartered the moose and brought the meat back to the poacher's house, and the poacher sold some of the meat again to the game warden. So basically, the poacher was caught selling meat to the game warden and illegally killing a moose with the game warden. And he was actually charged with killing two different moose, and him and his partner were both charged with killing two different moose. So long story short, they were caught. When they were caught, they did a search on the house and they found 25 different firearms. This person, the main character in the story, JH, the 35-year-old, had previous convictions in Montana and South Dakota for burglary. He had quite an extensive record, so he was not able to possess firearms, and he had 25 of them. So thankfully he was caught. This case, the judge came down very hard on these two individuals. The first person, the main character in this story, he received 2 years in jail and over a $6,000 fine, and he also lost his hunting privileges for a total of 10 years. The second person involved that was involved with the killing of the first moose got 1 year in jail and over a $2,000 fine. So and he also lost his hunting privileges for 3 years. So they definitely got a very heavy punishment for their poaching. So on February 25th, 1990, a young boy and his family, initials DCC, were out snowmobiling from Mammoth to Yellowstone Canyon. Very sad story. The 11-year-old DCC and his 13-year-old cousin ran ahead of the group when they stopped to look over the edge, and there was a bunch of hard-packed snow and ice by the railing, and apparently he slipped and fell down 200 feet into the icy bottom. So a helicopter came and rappelled down 300 feet to collect him, and unfortunately he did pass away from multiple injuries from the fall down onto the ice. So on March 16th, 1990, a man from Elko, Nevada, with the initials DE, him and his girlfriend were at West Yellowstone, and they went to the bar and they got into an argument at the bar. Basically, from there, they hopped in the vehicle and took off at a high rate of speed. During this high rate of speed, they flipped off the road and flew 400 feet down through a bunch of trees and underbrush down the side of a mountain. Thankfully, the park rangers did see a spare tire on the road, and they went down and they saw the driver, DE, had his head hanging out the window, and his female passenger had hit a tree and died. So right when the rangers came up to DE, he had said that she was driving, even though he was in the driver's seat. Witnesses at the bar also said that he was driving. So he tried to plead not guilty and claim that his deceased girlfriend was driving, but the jury ultimately did find him guilty. And at the time the story was written, he was facing up to 5 years in jail and a $5,000 fine. So on April 6th, the man from Tennessee was caught with a bunch of elk parts scattered around his vehicle. Basically, he did have an elk tag, but the elk he had was not tagged. So he was just given a small minor violation for that issue. However, the next day, an elk was found, shot, and killed, and the antlers and horns were removed. So they did an investigation, and they went to his house, and they found basically the same antlers that fit the head plate of the second elk that was killed. So he was caught, and he was brought to trial. At the time this was written, he was facing up to a $10,000 fine, and he would also forfeit his guns and potentially the vehicle that was used in the crime or the commission of the poaching of the bull elk. So on June 25th, 1990, a 71-year-old was actually taking a picture of Old Faithful when a buffalo slowly walked toward the person and knocked them over. Just gave him a couple bruises. I guess this was actually the second attack that year when another person who was from Germany got knocked down and got a couple bruises from the buffalo as well. So on October 24th, 1990, some serious vandalism occurred where some people had rolled some boulders on top of some geysers. They had thrown some sod in some geysers and things like that and broken the edges of one. Basically, they're doing an investigation, but they don't really have any leads at this time on that particular vandalism. So that was 1990 Ranger Records for Yellowstone, guys. I really do appreciate you guys following along. Thank you very much. Please like and subscribe.